Good morning. Good morning to everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, Excellencies, it's a great pleasure to welcome you all to this side event on the role of youth in preventing violent extremism through sport. It's a great honor for us at the Office of Counter-Terrorism to welcome you all together, of course, with our strong partners, those who are co-organizing the side event with us, in particular the UN Alliance of Civilization, and of course the State of Qatar, here represented by the amazing Generation Amazing and its director, and of course all of our partners at the UN Global Program on the security of major sporting events and the promotion of sports and its values for the prevention of violent extremism, and in particular the United Nations International Criminal Justice Institute, UNICRI, and our partners also of ICSS, the International Center on Sports Security, which is also based in Qatar, who are our dearest friends and co-implementer of this very important program. The program, as its title says, it's focused on two main elements: the security of major sporting events, but also the promotion of sports through its strong values as an important tool to prevent violent extremism. A lot has been accomplished in the last couple of years through the program on both sides. We have issued a number of very important guiding documents and the best practices handbooks. And today we are very glad that two of these very important documents are here for your look. The handbook that we are finally launching today on the prevention of violent extremism through major sporting events, but also the guide for policymakers that complements at strategic views the best practices collected by a plethora of partners, not only from member states, but also, of course, from civil society organizations, academia, and the private sector for the prevention of violent extremism through sport. In that pillar of the program, we are very glad that we have also worked strongly with Generation Amazing on launching our More Than a Game campaign during the World Cup, and which generating more than 40 million impressions worldwide, with great athletes that are really a symbol of sports values, such as Dr. Nadim. We have also strongly worked with civil society organizations through particularly our strong partnership with UNICRI, who led this part of work of the program, guiding implementation of a number of field grassroots level projects in a number of countries. We issued a call for proposal that generated more than 450 requests. We could only support 10, so this is really to show the wealth of enthusiasm of and with civil society organization to work with us and with the program. And these 10 granted projects have really been producing impactful results and achievements throughout the last year. We will hear from some of them. We are very happy also to have hundreds of people connected online. We have, and this is another great achievement of the program in both sides, the sport security field, but also the prevention of violent extremism pillar of the program. We have created global networks of focal points designated by partners, particularly, of course, by governments, but also by other entities, including civil society organizations. I'm very glad to say that we have more than 220 persons on the global network for the prevention of violent extremism through sport that have been officially designated by governments or by other entities and partners. And this is really a unique mechanism that allows us to bring the needed expertise around a virtual table like today and benefit from the strong expertise of all those who are working in the prevention of violent extremism through sports. And many of the people who are part of the global network are those who actually contributed highly to these two documents that we are launching. And I want also to particularly thank the UN Alliance of Civilization as well for their co-lead in the program and for really striving the work with youth, organizing a number of youth fora that have been extremely successful. But we will hear from our partners directly, so without any further ado, I would like now to turn the floor to Ambassador Vladimir Ivanovich Voronkov, Under-Secretary General of the Office of Counter-Terrorism. The Under-Secretary General, please.
Thank you, Mauro. Good morning to all. It's great to start the day with youth and to speak about youth. So thank you for inviting me. Excellencies, distinguished guests, dear colleagues, it's my pleasure to welcome you to this side event on the role of youth in preventing violent extremism through sports, co-hosted by the United Nations Office of Counter-Terrorism with the United Nations Alliance of Civilizations and the permanent mission of the State of Qatar to the United Nations. Sport has immense potential in helping to build a lasting legacy of peace and positive values, which are critical for sustainable responses to terrorism and violent extremism. Sports can reach all segments of society, including those most marginalized. The General Assembly has encouraged member states and other relevant actors to consider instituting mechanisms to involve youth in the promotion of a culture of peace, tolerance, and intercultural and interreligious dialogue, including through sports and physical activities. The Security Council has also recognized the value of youth in peace building through resolutions 2250, 2419, and 2535 on youth, peace, and security. These resolutions call on member states to effectively engage with youth to prevent and counter violent extremism and address the conditions conducive to terrorism. Youth are uniquely positioned to mobilize their peers and to be stakeholders of societies that are increasingly free from stereotypes, discrimination, and extremism. Building on the valuable work undertaken in the framework of the United Nations Global Sports Program, I am pleased that we are joined today by athletes, youth representatives, and regional organizations to discuss policy recommendations from a youth perspective on preventing violent extremism through sport, a key deliverable of our program. I also wish to highlight our successful More Than a Game campaign, which we launched in partnership with Generation Amazing. Thank you for this common initiative. Foundation during the 2022 FIFA World Cup hosted by the State of Qatar. It was one of the most successful World Cups in the history of this competition. It features inspiring testimonials from young athletes alongside professional football player Nadi Nadim, aimed at promoting the power of sports in making real and positive change. These young athletes are beneficiaries of a grant that we launched in 2021, which supports grassroots civil society organizations to implement community-level sport-based projects to prevent violent extremism. Our global sports program also works closely with the African Union and the Association of Southeast Asian Nations to promote human rights-based and youth-centric practices to address the conditions conducive to terrorism and violent extremism through sport. Before I conclude, I wish to express my gratitude to all our program partners, including United Nations Global Counter-Terrorism Coordination Compact entities, as well as the entire community of national focal points, youth leaders, sports federations and associations, and civil society organizations who worked closely to prepare a guide for policymakers for the use of sport for the prevention of violent extremism, which will be officially launched today. This tool will assist member states to integrate sports in national and regional strategies and plan of actions to prevent and counter violent extremism. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, young people are critical to building resilient societies and ensuring lasting solidarity through mechanisms such as sport, which push people to be better, aim higher, and reach further. I look forward to hearing the insights that emerge from today's discussion. I thank you and I wish you fruitful discussion.
Thank you very much, Under-Secretary General Voronkov, for your remarks and also for really underlying the great achievements of the program. And I look now and turn to our co-organizers of today's event, starting with Ms. Nihal Saad, Director of the UN Alliance of Civilization. Dear Nihal, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mauro. Good morning to everyone, and welcome to this side event, or co-organized by the United Nations Alliance of Civilizations, UNOCT, and the State of Qatar in partnership with other UN Global Sports Program partners, ICSS, and UNICRI. So good morning to everyone, and thank you for joining us here. I just, at the outset, I wish to say that we are very pleased at UNOC and very proud with our partnership with UNOCT and the Global Sports Program. Thank you very much, Under-Secretary General Voronkov, to you and your team for having us in this Global Sports Program, and we hope to continue to work together. In a world that continues to grapple with multifaceted challenges of violent extremism, it is imperative that we explore innovative and holistic approaches to address this pressing issue. At the heart of any effective strategy lies the recognition that our young people, the torch bearers of today and tomorrow, are enabled to shape the course of history and drive positive change in their communities. Sport, a universal language that transcends borders, cultures, and ideologies, can unite people, foster mutual understanding, and promote social cohesion. Sports offers a unique space that embraces essential values like teamwork, discipline, respect, and fair play. By engaging youth in sporting activities, we can instill these values, nurturing their innate leadership potential and empowering them to become ambassadors of peace, capable of bridging divides and promoting social harmony. It is crucial that we understand that nature and the complexity of violent extremism, as and when conducive to terrorism, knows no boundaries and can manifest in various forms, threatening the fabric of our societies. It exploits vulnerabilities, feeds on grievances, and perpetuates a cycle of violence and division. Yet, in the face of these challenges, we find hope and inspiration in young people's unwavering resilience and potential. Youth's unique and diverse actions in PVE through sport have made a valuable contribution to addressing the drivers of violent extremism. From grassroots initiatives to awareness-raising campaigns, young people's efforts have transformed the lives of countless individuals. But youth's added value to PVE through sport has not always been adequately considered in policy-making processes. Today, we stand united in recognizing that meaningful youth engagement in PVE policymaking is not merely an option but an imperative. We must create platforms and opportunities for young people to participate actively in shaping their own futures, becoming catalysts for positive change. The UN Global Sports Program on security of major sporting events and promotion of sport and its values as a tool to prevent violent extremism was launched back in 2020 as a cross-cutting global initiative to help member states leverage the power of sports to strengthen social cohesion and build resilience to violent extremism. A key objective of the program has always been to empower youth while ensuring that their unique skills and perspectives on PVE through sport are effectively considered to decision makers. That's why UNEOC, in coordination with the program partners, organized a series of youth consultations, both online and in person, to collect youth's ideas on how to integrate more young people in PVE through sport policy making. We will later see a presentation of the most important recommendations that came out of those consultations. The final aim of this exercise is to support and inspire policymakers to invite young people to the decision-making table. Meaningful youth engagement is also very present in all other activities of the program's PVE-related work stream. The Guide for Policymakers for the Use of Sport for Prevention of Violent Extremism and the Handbook on Preventing Violent Extremism Through Sporting Events both actively reaffirm the role of youth in fostering sustainable peace and development. And several young people contributed to the program's successful global media campaign, hashtag More Than a Game, which USG Voronkov mentioned, launched in partnership with the Generation Amazing Foundation, which showcased inspiring stories about the power of sport to make real positive change. The United Nations Alliance of Civilizations has been at the forefront of fostering dialogue and collaboration among diverse communities worldwide through its unwavering commitment to inclusivity and respect for cultural and religious diversity. The Alliance has demonstrated that peaceful coexistence and understanding are not mere aspirations but achievable realities. I would like to leave it there, and we are going to be hearing firsthand the experience of the young people that we have invited to this side event. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, dear Nihal, for really the strong partnership we have and for underscoring how youth and young people have been directly involved and their voices heard and promoted through the work of the program. I would like now to turn to our next speaker and co-organizer of today's event. It's a great pleasure to have our great friend, Mr. Nasser Al-Khoury, who is the Executive Director of the Generation Amazing Foundation of the State of Qatar, but also a living proof of our 220 focal points, as he is the official focal point on PV nominated by the State of Qatar. Thank you so much, dear Nasser, for flying and coming here to New York. Please, you have the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed delegates, it's an honor to be here today representing the State of Qatar and Generation Amazing Foundation, which is an organization that provides life-changing opportunities and empowers youth through harnessing the transformative power of sports. We are proud partners and members of the UNOCT's Global Sports Program and committed to the shared goal of leveraging sports to promote inclusion, social cohesion, cultivating resilience, and counteracting violent extremism so that we can better safeguard sports from extremist activities and ideologies and protect mega sporting events from terrorist threats. In a world divided by our differences, sports has a unique ability to unite individuals from all walks of life, regardless of culture, background, or belief. And I think we heard that from other speakers today as well. It speaks the universal language that resonates beyond borders, fostering mutual respect, understanding, and gives a sense of belonging. It also provides new opportunities and restores hope for underserved communities and marginalized, disenfranchised youth globally. These very values are essential to deterring radicalization and violent extremism in communities at risk and underpin our work at Generation Amazing Foundation and our partnership with the UN Office of Counter-Terrorism and other key UN agencies. At home in Qatar, we have long acknowledged the potency of sports as a tool for diplomacy and peace building. The State of Qatar is one of the sponsors of the UN resolution on sports and development and peace, highlighting the importance of sports in enhancing development, peace, respect, and tolerance, and achieving an active and healthy community. Therefore, the State of Qatar gives a great importance to sports through hosting numerous international sporting events, including the successful hosting of the FIFA World Cup Qatar 2022. Beyond this, Qatar's commitment to principles and institutions of the United Nations is embodied in its substantial aid commitments, including support to various UN agencies in their humanitarian, counter-terrorism, and relief programs globally. The Generation Amazing Foundation is a testament to Qatar's commitment to utilizing sport as a vehicle for positive change. Through the successful joint initiatives such as More Than a Game, the global media campaign that was launched at the Generation Amazing Youth Festival during the FIFA World Cup, we saw that we were able to bring famous athletes and young leaders to amplify their stories. We highlighted the experience of young people such as Kelsey from Northern Ireland, who spoke about her engagement with Fresh Start through Sport, which is a 16-week program which looks at engaging. It's committed to positively impacting her community through sports. Stories like these showcase how sport can cultivate positive change, promote positive values, and prevent violent extremism. Generation Amazing and UNOCT believe that youth participation and implementation of sports-based PVE programs and the development of adoption of cutting-edge policies and practices are crucial in this effort. Central to our approach in empowering youth through sport, Generation Amazing community clubs are safe spaces that provide football for development curriculum and other programs that unlock youth inner potential to become better global citizens. We believe in providing youth with safe spaces and capacity building programs to encourage their growth, creativity, and positive contributions in their economy, in their society. However, we cannot overlook the pivotal role that grassroots organizations have that we work with around the world. They have an innate understanding of their communities and underlying issues that enable the creation of effective programming that focuses on youth leadership. Through their work, they help to tackle pressing issues and empower youth to give back to their communities. Youth-led organizations such as Grassroots Soccer in Iraq embody a transformative potential of sport. By harnessing the collective energy of youth leaders, these organizations are uniquely positioned to strengthen resilience against violent extremism while fostering meaningful youth engagement. At Generation Amazing Foundation, in collaboration with our sister legacy initiative, B4 Development, we recognize the significance of these grassroots movements. We are committed to partnering with entities such as Grassroots Soccer to leveraging our programming to effectively combat violent extremism and social exclusion. I want to stress the success of Generation Amazing isn't just about football, but it's about the emphasis on leadership, teamwork, respect that all sports can foster. These are very values that can counteract extremist ideologies, and it's our commitment to providing safe spaces for youth around the world that serves as a cornerstone to our legacy and strategy of enabling youth to empower themselves. Looking ahead, we must ask ourselves, how can we replicate the scale of Generation Amazing models in regions that are most at risk of violent extremism? How can we adopt this model to different cultural contexts and different sports? And how can we ensure the longevity and the sustainability of these safe spaces? Lastly, we must consider the role of empowering girls and women through sports in the fight against violent extremism. The Generation Amazing Foundation's commitment to gender equality and cultural understanding are key elements of our approach that should be adopted more broadly. The work that we do at Generation Amazing is just one piece of a larger puzzle, and we hope that the lessons learned from our work can inform and inspire the advancement of national and international policy, making a secure sport to promote its values as a strategy for PVE. I express my great gratitude to Your Excellency and Her Excellency Sheikh Alia, Qatar's permanent mission to the UN, and to the leadership team at UNOCT for granting me this platform today and for the valued partnership that we've had over the last few years. And it's an honor to shed light on some of our significant contributions made by Generation Amazing and the State of Qatar since 2012. And we look forward to deepening our collaboration with the United Nations and member states, civil society organizations, and other national focal points as well, and to foster a climate of peace and deter the spread of violent extremism. Thank you.
A big thank you, Nasser, for your words and for really representing through the work of Generation Amazing that now has been transformed into a full foundation, the true legacy of the World Cup and the wealth of experience and great work you have been doing. So we will be gladly continuing this strong partnership. And thank you, of course. A big thanks also to the permanent mission of the State of Qatar and Madam Ambassador for a direct, strong role in supporting our work on sports. I would like now to turn to the partners of our global program and have the pleasure to also welcome from Turin, here in New York, the director of the United Nations Interregional Crime and Just Research Institute, UNICRI, Miss Antonia De Meo. Dear Antonia, thank you for being with us, please.
Thank you. Excellencies, distinguished guests, colleagues, it's an honor to be here today in this side event on behalf of UNICRI to celebrate the power of youth in preventing violent extremism through sport. We hope that today's event will ignite a dynamic conversation about the pivotal role of young leaders to contribute to a better world through sports-based interventions. UNICRI works with youth as key partners in sports and beyond because we recognize, like our other speakers, their unique role to promote peace and security and to prevent and counter terrorism and violent extremism in their communities. Please allow me to express my sincere gratitude to our partners, the UN Office of Counter-Terrorism, the UN Alliance of Civilizations, and the International Center for Sports Security, whose support and collaboration have been instrumental to the global sports program's success. Of course, we deeply appreciate Qatar and the Generation Amazing for the leadership and support and the positive impact of sport. Thank you to UNOCT and UNOAC for organizing this important side event. UNICRI appreciates our close and valued partnership with all, and we look forward to our continued fruitful collaboration. I'd like to also thank our esteemed panel members for their active engagement and valuable insights. Their diverse expertise, knowledge, and experience exemplify the transformative power of sport that's been highlighted. When we look at the activities and projects of the Global Sports Program, it's evident that sport possesses an unparalleled ability to foster a sense of community, resilience, and unity. And nowhere is this impact more critical than in the lives of our young people, who often face poverty and marginalization and may become susceptible to divisive narratives from extremist groups. Yet youth also bring promise, with their boundless energy, vitality, and passion to shape a better tomorrow. Empowering youth through sport gives them a positive outlet for their enthusiasm and provides them with opportunities to cultivate leadership skills, benefit from mentorship, and build connections across diverse backgrounds and experiences. As a partner of the Global Sports Program, and as mentioned by our moderator, UNICRI is working closely with 10 different civil society organizations around the world, selected through the program's grant initiative to implement sports-based initiatives to prevent violent extremism, with a focus on youth as primary beneficiaries. We have witnessed the profound impact of these collaborations with youth. Their experiences have highlighted both the significance and challenges of involving women and minority groups, the pivotal role of well-trained coaches in fostering positive interactions across groups prone to conflict, and the indispensable contribution of local civil society organizations. Local CSOs possess vital community knowledge and expertise needed to ensure that sports projects are culturally relevant and tailored to the unique needs of the young people they serve in their communities. As highlighted also by Director Saad and other sport speakers, our work with local CSOs underscores the pressing need for leaders to genuinely listen to the voices and perspectives of youth. We hope that today's panel discussion will contribute to elevating young people's voices. Youth involvement in shaping policies for the present and future is not merely symbolic, but rather necessary for sustainable and effective solutions across peace and development contexts. We call on all decision makers to listen, value, and consider the first-hand insights of our youth. As a research and training institute focused on criminal justice and crime prevention, UNICRI's action-oriented research and project implementation generates important evidence and data to evaluate the effectiveness of sport to prevent violent extremism. We seek to deepen our collective understanding of effective prevention strategies and to continuously enhance how we leverage sport to positively influence lives across borders, generations, and diverse communities. And we share good practices and concrete examples of how to integrate sports to prevent and combat violent extremism. It's only through this continuous focus on learning, data, analysis, and evaluation that we can ensure that sport is maximally effective in nurturing social cohesion and deterring violent extremism. By supporting sports initiatives and, more importantly, investing time and resources in youth initiatives, we can create fertile ground for young leaders to thrive and to make a lasting impact in their communities. This side event is a powerful reflection of UNICRI and all the global sports program partners' commitment to the transformative power of sport for positive change, particularly as harnessed by our young people. Thank you, and I wish you all a fruitful discussion with our excellent panel.
Thank you again, dear Antonia, for your presence today, but also for the strong partnership of UNICRI and for leading the stream of work with civil society, which demonstrate how the program not only as engaged on policy and with policymakers at the strategic level, but also deepen its work at the grassroots level through the voices and with the very important, significant work of civil society organizations. I turn now the floor to our next speaker, who is, again, our strong partner and co-implementer, together with all of us, of the global program. It's a great pleasure to also have Mr. Massimiliano Montanari, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the International Center for Sport and Security, which is based in Doha as well. Dear Massimiliano, thank you also for traveling all the way to New York. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Mauro, for the floor. So, dear colleagues and friends, we are talking about sport, so allow me to be very, let's say, relaxed on the protocol. It's a great pleasure to see you, to see our dear partners from UNOCT, the UN Alliance of Civilizations, UNICRI, Generation Amazing. It's a great pleasure, and to see so many organizations active on the ground, being here and to share their knowledge and experiences on how to use, also in very practical terms, sport to prevent violent extremism. Now, years ago, more than 3 years ago, actually almost 4, when we started the conversation on initiating the global program, we started with a vision, and the vision, more than not based on, at the time, not necessarily on evidence. At that time, it was mainly a vision, I would say, that sport could prevent violent extremism. Now, today, after having worked for more than 3 years on the subject and having studied the subject, researched the subject, after having implemented programs, delivered capacity building activities, produced tools, guides, manuals, I think we can say also now, based on evidence and based on facts, that indeed sport can and does actually prevent violent extremism. So I think we reached some confirmation in this regard. And we reach a confirmation on the capacity of sport to protect people, and particularly young people, from the appeal of violent extremism, and very often also of the appeal of terrorist activities. And this is because sport provides a place to belong, and much better alternatives to those offered by violent extremist groups. This is because sport means inclusion versus marginalization, equality versus discrimination, empowerment versus the denial of rights, and opportunities versus despair. It promotes a spontaneous respect for rules and for other people. And it teaches that the opponents are not enemies, and provides a clean and safe environment, and in places which are affected by lack of rule of law, endemic corruption, and criminality. Sport facilitates access to quality education and promotes the development of skills and competencies which can be extremely precious in order to also have access to the labor market. For these reasons, the role of sport is not just inspirational, but is also very tangible. This is what we have seen in the course of 3 years of hard and passionate work, as the project officer, Valerio, knows very well. Very few sectors like sport have the capacity to showcase the practical meaning and implications of resolutions, strategies, plans, and declarations adopted within the United Nations system. Sport provides many concrete examples on how to build peace and dialogue, how to promote social cohesion, inclusion, and finally, prevent violent extremism. In the last few years, our organization, the ICSS, through its Save the Dream initiative, very happy to see our ambassador Isabella with us, and jointly with our UN partners and with the support of organizations like Qatar Charity and the Qatar Fund for Development, have implemented sport-based projects in communities affected by violent extremism, particularly in Darfur, in Sudan, and also very recently in Somalia. In all these cases, we feel that to have significantly enhanced the resiliency of our beneficiaries, but also to have enhanced their capacities to organize themselves in support of their respective communities, and to work together within and beyond the sport context. At the same time, youth, boys and girls, prove to be very precious cultural mediators with the communities we wanted to serve. And thanks to their integrity, their passion, their capacities and genuine commitment, an ally to overcome the obstacles that we have found during our journey. So youth represents both beneficiaries, but also, and let me say perhaps most importantly, key players in making the outskirts of the world better places to live in, and in mitigating and removing those factors which can push other youth towards violent extremism. It is, however, essential not to leave them alone. To this end, we need to promote long-term programmatic approaches and link as much as possible sport for PV initiatives to the larger development and peace agenda in order to enhance their impact and sustainability. It is also urgent to identify ways to enhance the protection of these sport for PV activists. and making sure that they can deliver, in a safe, in the safest possible way, their activities. Youth have been also a major source of ideas because of their contribution to the Global Sport Programme. All the tools that we have developed, including both the guides for policymakers on the use of sport for PVE and the handbook on how to prevent violent extremism through the organization of major sporting events, have significantly benefited from the inputs and perspectives of youth leaders from different regions all around the world. We did not want to promote policies having an impact on youth life without listening their voices, first of all. Regarding specifically major sporting events, I would like to highlight their role or their potential role, if properly planned and conceived, to address violent extremism because of their capacity to promote intercultural dialogue, address prejudice by bringing people together, and generate opportunities for the most underprivileged communities through urban regeneration and creation of jobs. Finally, allow me to conclude my intervention with a reflection on the need to preserve the integrity and the purity of sport. If we fail, corruption and manipulation will prevail in sport, and we will lose its inspirational capacity and its power to change the world. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you again, dear Massimiliano. And as you said, it is so important not only to work with young people, but to hear and promote their voices. And this is also the perfect introduction for our last speaker of this initial session, before we hear actually from the panel and from our youth representative. And I would like to turn to Mr. Bram van Haver, who is a program manager at the UN Alliance of Civilization, will actually present the latest ad and policy document of the program, which is really the policy recommendation from a youth perspective made by the young people the program engaged. Thank you, dear Bram. You have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mauro. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Your Excellency. Ladies and gentlemen and distinguished guests and honorable delegates, I would like to give a presentation about what came out of our youth fora with more than 100 youth leaders. Let me start with what we have heard today already, that sport has historically played a critical role in the promotion and construction of cohesive societies through its values of tolerance, respect, cooperation, fairness, etc. It brings people together regardless of their race, religion, cultural background, or ideology. This makes sports a very powerful tool to prevent violent extremism. And that has not gone unnoticed by a lot of young change makers. The current youth generation, through their commitment and unique perspectives, actively uses sport as a tool to address the triggers of violent extremism. Unfortunately, despite their great contributions, youth are often excluded from PVE policy making and program implementation. To collect ideas from young people on prevention of violent extremism through sports and on how to integrate youth into policies, the United Nations Alliance of Civilizations and the global sports program partners UNOCT, UNICRI, and ICSS organized a series of youth consultations for more than 100 young civil society leaders between 15 and 35 years old from all across the world. This resulted in a set of policy recommendations from a youth perspective on preventing violent extremism through sports, as it provides guidance for policymakers to effectively leverage the power of sports in PVE while ensuring meaningful youth engagement. It are some of those recommendations that I would like to present to you today. The entire set of recommendations will be shared at a later stage. I would like to remind you that these recommendations are the youth suggestions and that the role of the global program was only to create an enabling environment. first set of recommendations from the youth participants is about the definition of PvE through sport. Despite the lack of universally accepted definitions, there's a growing need among implementing actors, particularly on the grassroots level, for a shared understanding of concepts such as terrorism, radicalization, and violent extremism. You think that policymakers can play an important role by encouraging more know-how through research, evaluation, and evidence collection, which will be essential to better understand the true nature of violent extremism. Youth advises to also make full use of local knowledge and expertise. That said, when engaging with communities, one should exercise caution when using PvE and terrorism, as it could make people hesitant to participate in activities due to the sensitivity of those terms. Policymakers may advise relevant actors to use a language that rather focuses on constructing cohesive, prosperous, and peaceful societies. The language used should be adapted to a specific context and audience. The participants of the youth consultations also brainstormed about innovative PvE through sports strategies that they think could be incorporated into PvE policies, programs, and plans. The first idea they had is to organize awareness-raising campaigns to disseminate culturally sensitive messages of peace and mutual understanding, making use of local changemakers or athletes so local audiences can relate to the campaign's messages and the modes of transmission. Second idea they had was about major sporting events. Thanks to their widespread appeal, major sporting events are ideally suited to address the drivers of violent extremism. I can give you some examples, such as organizers of major sporting events can promote corporate social responsibility programs to invest in sport for good. They can leave positive legacies, like a fund for victims of terrorism, or they can include youth who have previously been at risk to work as volunteers. For more examples on how major sporting events can contribute to prevention of violent extremism, I would like to refer to our handbook, which you can find on your chairs or on the table. Third idea, young people highlighted the value of local sports clubs that can help young people develop a community-oriented mindset by enabling them to actively participate in groups, build trust with others, and understand their role as citizens. Fourth idea, the values of sport should be incorporated into formal and non-formal education. So in formal education, we speak about integrating the values into the curricula or in after-school sports activities. Enhancing life skills through sports can also be incorporated into non-formal education, encouraging a more bottom-up approach. 5, proper sports infrastructure should be developed with and for youth communities. 6, it is important to identify economic opportunities that come with sport. Youth should have access to sport-related jobs such as coaching, scouting, and analysis. 7, sport can be used for effective rehabilitation and reintegration strategies. Offenders of terrorism or violent acts can be helped through the use of sports in the first place as a means of individual empowerment to reintegrate within and reconnect with society. As an overall principle, when innovating PvE through sport strategies, trial and error must be embraced, accepting potential shortcomings, failures, and learning in the process. To improve effectiveness and impact of PvE through sport programs and policies, youth participants recommend the following. We should learn from the successful practices of sport for development and peace. They share common ground and can support each other's efforts. So it's important to explore how sport for development and peace programs and sport to PvE can complement each other. 2, the type of sports used to prevent violent extremism should be diversified, responding to the interest of the community and its youth. Some examples. Traditional sports are easier to relate to in certain communities. Brand new sporting activities without associated stereotypes may be more effective in engaging minorities. Non-competitive sports can provide an entry point in scenarios with toxic competition between groups. Less known sports, let's think about dancing, cheerleading, or even electronic sports, are often underexplored, while they could provide a form of expression that may be crucially missing in the PVE through sport programs. And last but not least, it's crucial to recognize and harness the full potential of parasports to achieve full inclusion. Next recommendation from the young people: incorporating role models such as athletes in sport-based PVE activities is considered beneficial, as they can exert influence on society and have the potential to inspire future generations by spreading positive narratives. Next, to be effective, PVE through sport should focus on the pedagogical impact of sport while channeling competitive instinct in a positive and healthy way. Success should not be measured by victories, but by imparted values, lessons, and life skills. And the last one, the role and value of volunteer networks should be strengthened. Sport volunteerism can help build an understanding of democratic and civic responsibility. Volunteerism also exposes individuals to the diversity within their communities, promoting inclusivity, tolerance, and mutual understanding. Our young people had a lot of ideas about effectiveness and impact, so I will give a few more. Local communities should be incorporated into the planning, design, implementation, and evaluation of PVE through sport activities to ensure local buy-in and trust. There is a need to develop resource platforms around sport-based PVE interventions for sport for development trainers and coaches, so they can exchange practices, experiences, and challenges. Engaging with local businesses could enhance the impact of PVE through sport interventions. For example, during the organization of major sporting events, as they may provide opportunities for socio-economic development and lead to a higher engagement of local stakeholders. And last recommendation on effectiveness and impact: grassroots organizations, including many youth-led movements, should be included in every stage of sport for PVE programs and policies. Okay, one more. Policymakers should build on the value of youth mobilization to achieve greater success. So youth should be motivated and entrusted with concrete roles and tasks, and intergenerational cooperation is highly needed, and that's the whole reason why we are here today. Some recommendations on the inclusion of youth in PVE through sport policymaking. Policymakers, they should cultivate environments encouraging youth leadership while investing in development programs that build leadership's capacities. Youth would find it very helpful if decision makers could develop local networks of government representatives and young civil society leaders working on PVE to build stronger intergenerational collaboration. And youth is calling for the creation of legislation that encourages multi-stakeholder cooperation, ensuring young people to contribute meaningfully. Considering their crucial leadership role in driving sport for PVE initiatives at the community level, youth have valuable insights to bring to the table. One example is the establishment of consultation mechanisms that would allow youth to dialogue with policy and decision makers. A last recommendation on the inclusion of young people is to establish quota, as this has already proved to be an effective way for many other groups in society. As an overarching principle, youth participation should be meaningful, and tokenism is a serious hindrance. About evidence-based policymaking. To guarantee impact and sustainability, policymakers should collaborate with researchers, academia, and other specialized organizations to monitor and evaluate sport-based PV interventions and policies. There's a need for adapted and widely applicable M&E tools. 2, existing good practices should be better mapped and incorporated into policymaking and planning. This requires consulting with local expert and relevant implementing stakeholders. 3, we should promote evidence collection, decision makers should promote evidence collection among grassroots organizations implementing PV interventions. This will help policymakers to integrate sport into PVE policies effectively. Last slides before we give the floor to people from the field. Finally, the youth also identified some limitations that should be addressed by policymakers. First, sport is not a silver bullet, and sport alone cannot eliminate the causes of violent extremism. So decision makers should recognize that a holistic approach is needed. Sport as a tool for PVE should operate alongside other approaches, such as education, or improving socioeconomic factors, helping to address the many challenges that youth may face. It's also best to draw upon different actors in such an approach, including coaches, teachers, and family members. Second, limitations or taboos and stigmas related to sports. It's important that decision makers should ensure that sport is available to all, regardless of disability, race, gender, age, or skill level. And last one, policymakers should not be blind to the negative impact of sports, such as hooliganism or recruitment for violent extremist groups. Policymakers should make sure that sports actors promote and enforce codes of ethics. So, thank you very much for your attention, and back to you, Mauro. Thank you.
Thank you, Bram. And through you, really, I wish to commend the work the Alliance has led and the work of the youth and the young people who have engaged with us. I think this recommendation should not only be fully endorsed, but really promoted at the highest level through the United Nations with the work of policy makers, because they make a lot of sense. Thank you very much. Before concluding this first part, I would like now to just present to you the More Than a Game campaign through a very short video.
Some see sports as being nothing more than fun and games. Sure, maybe. But if sport was nothing more than a game, why does it have the power to connect? To embrace what is different? The strength to make someone feel at home. The ability to transform. To spark potential. Sport breaks barriers. It's a safe haven for some, an outlet for others. It fuels the fire inside. It gives the underdog a shot at success. Sport is more than a game. It's more than a game. More than a game.
Sport is definitely more than a game, and we are very proud of the campaign we launched last year. Thank you for the attention on this first part, and I now would like to turn the floor to our dear Valerio, Mr. De Divitis, who is the coordinator of the Global Sports Program at the UN Office of Counter-Terrorism, who will introduce and moderate the second part of this event, where we will hear directly from the youth and those working with youth who are present here or connected online. Thank you, and the floor is yours, Valerio.
Thank you, Mauro. So finally, from policy to practice. First of all, let me thank those who contributed to making our campaigns More Than a Game so successful. Of course, UNOCT Communication Unit, our dear colleagues, Andrea Valentina Rodriguez, Terence Levens, who really worked very hard. This was a great effort. Of course, our partnership with Generation Amazing was strategic in making sure this message could be disseminated worldwide so effectively. So as I was saying, finally, from policy to practice, our event is dedicated to youth and how it's important to listen to youth and to make sure youth perspectives are incorporated in PVE policies in general. As Bram was saying, sport alone cannot be the solution, but in conjunction with the broader PVE intervention, still sport can steer emotion and can really have a strong impact on the cognitive development and the sense of belonging and identity that should be one of the key factors for resiliency to violent extremism, especially among youth when their personality is still growing, and for making these values as something that can be brought along the entire course of life. So we have participants from one or two, actually, of our forum dedicated to youth we organize at regional level. One of the activities within the PVE pillar of our sports program. And also we have a former football player, Isabella Echeverri, from whom I would like to start, who is a representative of football player worldwide, FIFPro. And also, let me inform that we will be able to listen to Isabella's voice during the Women FIFA World Cup starting next month, taking place in Australia, New Zealand, as she will be working as anchor for Telemundo. So, Isabel, thanks for being with us. I know it was a long trip from Europe to New York, and I would like to hear your opinion, based, of course, on your experience, on how can youth, especially young girls, women, inspire other youth, and to make sure that young athletes can be models for youth in the context of prevention.
Okay, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here among all of you. Let me start by thanking everyone for the invitation, and just seeing the video, seeing the program, the recommendations, hearing firsthand about Generation Amazing that I've been following online too, is an absolute honor. I'm gonna try to be quick. My name is Isabella Echeverri. I am a professional football player. I am originally from Colombia, which was something that really triggered me when I was young. I was a minority. I was a young girl who liked to play football in a very violent country, right? And football was always linked to seeing news in the TV about people murdered in stadiums and all of these negative things. And it was the sport I loved the most, and it was always linked to negative, not always, but it was linked to negative things, which for me was very confused at the time. And when I started growing up, I was lucky enough to play in the World Cup, in the Olympics. I won the Pan American Games. And right there, I noticed that there was nothing more powerful to lead and inspire change than sports. And I'm not talking only about football, because, yeah, football is a big thing here, but sports in general, it's very powerful. And I realized that people wanted to hear me talk. And that's a privilege, right? As athletes, people want to see you, people want to see what you do, what you say, how you behave. And we have a huge role, athletes around the world, not only football players. We have a huge role and responsibility to inspire and lead the change we want to see in the world, specifically for all those young children, boys and girls watching us on TV or hearing us or watching us in our social media. But the power of athletes is not only in our voices, but also in our actions, right? Yes, we can use our voices to inspire for a better and safer world, but we have to use our actions on the field to tell or to show young people that you don't have to be kicking everyone around and being violent on the field to win. You can actually show integrity when you lose a hard game, or you can talk, like the way you talk to your coach or the way you talk to your teammates is also very important because you have so many eyes on you all the time. You're on the spotlight. And if you behave with the right values, you have actually an opportunity to be part of the change and change that status quo and be even more helpful than you are outside of the pitch. So by showing the human side of the athletes and inspire young people, we can actually be united and work towards eliminating hunger, eliminating extreme violence, achieving gender equality. I think there's so many things that we can do as athletes to be more than athletes and be actually game changers. And I think that video is a clear example, and what you guys are doing here is a clear example of that. So just to finish this, I think the key message here is the power of the collective action, uniting athletes with key stakeholders like all of you here and people outside of this room is actually an opportunity to change the world for a better place and inspire younger generations to use sports in the correct way and not only to win or lose, because I think that message is not okay right now. So a pleasure. Thank you so much. And yeah, that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Isabella. Really, actions can speak louder, sometimes louder than voices. So really appreciated your intervention, and game-changing is definitely one of the key words, highlights from your intervention. I would like now to move to Ahmad Farnan bin Rosli from Malaysia. Ahmad was one of the most inspiring voices during the Youth Forum, our program organized in Southeast Asia, in Bangkok, involving a number of youth from the region in a very constructive conversation, I would say, with a number of policy makers to make sure there could be a discussion that was actually very constructive to highlight what are youth impressions, youth perspectives when it comes to the prevention of violent extremism. So, Ahmad, what do you think are the key elements for steering youth emotions at the level of the community? And anything you would like to share about your experience as a youth leader?
Thank you. Thank you very much for such a meaningful introduction. Firstly, my name is Ahmad Farhan bin Rosli. I'm the participant of the Global Program Southeast Asia Youth Forum. Currently, I'm also the the executive committee members for Malaysian Youth Council. Malaysian Youth Council is an umbrella organization for all youth organization in Malaysia, and we have engaged with more than 3 to 4 million members of our members throughout the nation. So, first and foremost, I would like to share some good experiences or some good interesting point from Malaysian perspective of sport, including my experience involved in the youth activities by using a sport platform. In Malaysia, we have a multi-ethnicity and multicultural background, and the youth are learn to know each other through sport, because through sport, sport is use sport as to stay healthy, and the most important thing, the youth find the collective values in our culture, which can be found from connectivity, brotherhood, bond, and familiarity. The youth in Malaysia also use sports as the integral values that improve our misunderstanding about another community In Malaysia, we have Malay as a biggest ethnicity group. We have Chinese, we have India, and we also have the people from the Borneo Island, which is Sabah.
Could you try again?
Which is in Sabah and Sarawak. Our experiences in Malaysian Youth Council, we also perform or did many activities, including the marginalized group, such as the Aborigine group or Orang Asli community in Malaysia. The youth from the urban area use sport to know each other. The youth from the urban area use football to know the Aborigine group and the Orang Asli community. That I would say our action to incorporate the value of sport to make sure all the misunderstanding happen in our community can be countered. Secondly, we have a campaign that been launched by Malaysian youth that we call Sport for Humanity. And now we use the football and our traditional sport like some others like I could say sepak takraw, silat as a mechanism for humanity. So we use the sport vehicle to bring along the young people, especially most of the athletes in Malaysia is coming from the young people, and we utilize the young leaders and the young athletes to be the ambassador for the sport activities in our country for the sake of unity and for the sake of humanity. Lastly, last message I would like to convey here, youth know their community better. And I think what United Nations did to utilize the youth group in spreading the message of sport for prevention of terrorism and extremism is a good approach. And I believe through sport we can have a better world and a better humanity. Thank you.
Indeed, thank you very much for your meaningful words, Ahmad. Really appreciate it, and we really hope in the near future to know more about the actions on the ground, and you as a young leader, how you are continuing in your mission for preventing violent extremism through sport. May I turn to our next guest, Aya Abalnadem, who participated in another regional forum dedicated to youth within our sports program, and the one held for in Africa, in Morocco specifically. I would like to know, Aya, while not giving any limit, of course, to your presentation, to feel free to share anything you would like, but how do you think, in the specific context where you work, where you live, basically as a young leader, what are the key messages for youth? What is that can really trigger behavioral change or positive changes among youth?
Thank you very much for having me. I would like to start with speaking about the MENA region. So I've been across different conflict contexts, mainly in Jordan and Tunisia. And I've seen a perspective about youth, perhaps in the global community as well, but maybe more in the MENA region, that the youth are the sparks of violence. They are the problem that needs to be solved. That's a perspective that we want to see it changing. The 2250 conflict resolution, the UN resolution challenges this, and so does Generations for Peace, where I work, Generation Amazing, and so many other organizations that are doing a great job to change that perspective, because there's a powerful connection between youth and the contexts in which they exist. And that's what we'd like to see more of, and that's the main center of our work. In Jordan, we have a high influx of refugees, Syrians, and we had great stories of some of our pioneers in Al-Mafraq, very close to the Syrian border. One of our volunteers, Iyad, a very simple football pitch. he transformed it into a community hub where they play football every day for more than 6 months, and it actually transformed the whole context in the community. It was amazing results. In Tunisia, we had a youth participant in Tatawin, very close to the Libyan border. He was insisting to flee the country, to escape, the future of unemployment that they're facing, the lack of opportunities, not unlike so many youth from Jordan and Tunisia who really joined extremist groups, unfortunately. So he was so focused on this, and through engaging him into the sport-based activities we did in his secondary school, he was able to lead school initiatives in the first cycle and community initiatives in the second cycle, which made him a great success story of how you can create peaceful and role models in the community. And he found his dream in a place where he never sought out opportunities before. And what I'd like to mention, very important, is the support from strong existing structures like the government. All of our work is focused on partnerships with ministries, with local authorities, with municipalities in the local communities. Why? Because they provide access to data, to resources. You know that you're working with the youth most at risk to prevent violent extremism. They give access to the communities, to the schools, and this really facilitates the work and lets you know that your intervention is for the people who most needy for it. So that's from my experience, and I'd like to thank everyone again for the participation.
Thanks indeed, Aya, for bringing your perspective from the MENA region, Middle East and North Africa, and it's an honor for us to have not only a young leader, but basically a practitioner, someone who really works in, let's say, delicate context where the risk of violent extremism is particularly high. So congratulations for your strong work, and congratulations to our youth. This gives us tons of motivation to continue with the Global Sports Program in the future. After 3 years, we are seeing many tangible results of our work concerning the PVE work stream, but not only, also concerning the security work stream of our global program. And again, I would like to thank the plethora of partners, organizations, youth, civil society organizations with whom we work closely, and some of these stories are shared through the campaign More Than a Game. Let me move to the last segment of this session. So two distinguished colleagues who work closely with our program, and we are very, very grateful to the role of regional organizations, like the ideal trade union between the UN and the work taking place on the ground. So I'm very, very happy to introduce Lina Kessi from the African Union Sport Council. So the African Union Sport Council, the owner of the African Games. Our global program is working closely with the African Union and with the organizing committee of the Accra 2024 Games that will take place in next spring, in order to make sure this can be used as a great opportunity for engaging and empowering youth, and to make sure that can be a strong legacy, that this message can be something also reiterated, and to help next editions of the African Games to build on for youth engagement and empowerment in Africa across, through sport, across Africa through sport. So thanks, Lina. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. As I have been introduced, my name is Lina Kessi, Senior Sports Officer responsible for the African Games. We at the African Union Youth are at the center stage. I would like to introduce and inform you that at the African Union, we have a youth envoy who is working with the office of the chairperson, who also will be like a role model during the African Games in 2023, which will be held next year in Accra. The Games will be held from the 8th to the 25th of May. And in the whole process of organizing the Games, the roles of youth and youth-led organization are given the first priority. At Ghana, where the local organizing committee is working, and we who are working from Yaoundé and the technical committee for the African Games, which are overseeing the Games, we consider to work with the youth and youth-led organization to make sure that they will be the one to promote the positive values of the Games, to create awareness to the young people in Ghana and also in Africa in general, to tell them what is good and what should be taken forward. And also to make sure that the Games are not only the competition and fun, but it's the platform whereby young people will be empowered. Through the local organizing committee, there will be trainings which will be undertaken, the skills development training, which will emphasize on teamwork, conflict management, and also prevention of violent extremism. During the Games, the young people from the 55 member states will attend. The two young people, a boy and a girl, will participate in the Games. So there will be a youth camp. During the youth camp, the young people will be taken through various activities, and also they will have a workshop whereby they will come up with the ideas on how the Games can be more well organized, but also the issues which they are affecting their lives and how they can contribute towards prevention of violent extremism. Also in the LOC, that means the local organizing committee, the youth-led organization will be sitting in the subcommittee, which is volunteer management, athlete development, and anti-doping. In that committee, the youth will be given the first priority, and they will be the one to develop the positive messages and also to inform the people in Ghana and the continent in general. In 2019 Games in Morocco, we used the young journalists who were reporting all the events during the Games. That program also will be taken forward in 2023 African Games. The youth-led organization and the youth are the leaders of today. They need to be given the opportunity. They have a lot to do. So what I can call and what we are calling for the policymakers, this is their opportunity. We have to give them the platform to change this world. Thank you.
Lina, thanks so much. Please count on our support, on our full collaboration to making sure this platform becomes a great opportunity for engaging youth. So we are very much looking forward to continue working together, the African Union Sport Council in particular, and the organizing committee of the African Games in Accra, with whom we already worked last year. We had a series of briefings, and therefore this also triggered a program led at country level by the UN country team, very much shaped about youth engagement in the context of the African Games. So looking forward to continuing working together. May I now give the floor to Roger Chow. Roger Chow, representative of the ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Countries, leading the Youth and Education Department, who has been a great partner for our program. especially in the context of the implementation of our youth dedicated forum in Bangkok last year, where we facilitated a very constructive conversation I was mentioning earlier with the senior policymakers from the region, between youth and senior policymakers from the region. So I welcome Roger. Can you hear us? Yes?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Roger connected from Jakarta. Thanks for joining us, Roger. So, given that young people have led and sustained, you can hear us, right?
Yes, I can hear you.
So, I would like to give you the floor to know about any follow-up initiatives taking place in the region, and how you see the mission of the ASEAN and the United Nations to continue for further engagement with youth. We recently were in touch with our national focal points, Dr. Leapsi from Cambodia, who basically reported about successful initiatives triggered from our forum last year that took place in the context of the Southeast Asia Games held earlier this year in February. We are also very much looking forward to know more about the ASEAN, about new initiatives taking place in the region, and of course, happy to continue our collaboration in the future.
Thank you very much, Valerio, and thank you everyone who made the Bangkok Regional Forum success. First and foremost, let me express that I was amazed at the policy recommendations that was presented, and all of them are very important. And in fact, you will see some of those policy recommendations in the work we are planning or have already initiated. In November last year, during the 40th and 41st ASEAN Summit, a series of declarations were done, which for sports, well, let's start with youth. There was ASEAN leader statement on the year of ASEAN youth to strengthen the role of youth in ASEAN community building. For sports, the first two declarations in sports was the ASEAN Declaration on leveraging the role of sports in ASEAN community building and achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, and the ASEAN Declaration on fostering ASEAN identity through the safeguarding of traditional sports and games in the modern world. Those three declarations highlights the importance of youth and building platforms, empowering them in terms of skills and competencies to actually contribute to community building, not only in ASEAN, but at the global level. Take note that ASEAN community building has been recognized as part of the global community, and we're supposed to contribute. Second, the role of sports in community building and contributing to sustainable development goals has been clearly indicated. And we're looking at the role of traditional sports and games as well. So in terms of preventing violent extremism, sports is clearly one of the key sectors that we focus on. To give you an idea of new initiatives that we're initiating and things that we can probably collaborate, we will be initiating football for SDGs, funded by Japan. We already had the commitment for funding. So we will look at baseline study, taking into consideration how football as a proxy for sports contributes to sustainable development goals, covering basically the entire SDG portfolio, to inform evidence-based policymaking in sports. It's one aspect. In the youth sector, we are focused on volunteering work. We are currently implementing a Japan-funded ASEAN Volunteers Program, but this is disaster management. But we are working and currently in discussion with IFRC on doing a volunteer work for youth, particularly among IFRC member associations. ASEAN has always been focused on empowering youth and basically looking at how to address challenges in preventing violent extremism as well. But highlight that the importance of cross-sectoral work mentioned in the youth recommendations is important. That's why in education and youth, we work on media and information literacy, because sometimes misinformation and disinformation contribute significantly to violent extremism. We also believe in healthy lifestyles and active lifestyles. And currently, we recently had a discussion with FIFA as we are about to negotiate further actions for a renewal of MOU. And we did mention that we will look into Football for Schools project and highlighting how we can work together on giving access to football to the marginalized population in the rural areas as well, and how to use football in relation to contributing to peace and sustainable development as well. So these are just some of the things that we're working on. But there are other things in the works and currently in discussion, and we're open to, of course, collaboration with UN agencies and all of you. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Roger. Thank you, Roger. We took due note of the work. Congratulations being continued. And please count on our collaboration, continued cooperation in the near future. We're a bit late. I don't know if there is any quick comment or question from the floor. Of course, feel free to engage also separately to talk and to network after the meeting. But let me give you two very quick announcements, please. First, on the 12th of July, we are going to host an online expert discussion on mainstreaming gender for PVE through sport. That will be held online. We're going to share detail in the coming days across the entire community of experts within the Global Sports Program. And we would like very much, as a main outcome of the discussion and some research, to produce an annex to our guide for policymakers dedicated to gender mainstreaming. And also let me announce that as part of our series of podcasts, today it will be available online. There will be a Twitter from our UNOCT Twitter account, a podcast dedicated to the story of Swat Gallo, who's a Somali woman who basically managed through basketball, through the power of sport, to create strong engagement and to empower women in a very, very sensitive context. So to make sure this could be more resiliency to Al-Shabaab in particular, and therefore to safeguard her group of friends from violent extremism and creating a strong sense of belonging thanks to sport. So congratulations. This is a product our sports program finalized recently in collaboration with our program office in Doha. So with this, I would like to thank all the participants, all those who followed us on UN Web TV, and those who connected remotely. Also thank to the Principality of Monaco for being with us as a co-chair of the group of friends together with Qatar on sport for development and peace. Thanks, Florian. So let me close the meeting. I think it was very successful. And again, thank you everyone for the very constructive and interesting discussions, and all our partners for their continued cooperation. Really amazing working and keeping working with you. I'm very much looking forward to making the program even stronger in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you.